What's up, y'all, and welcome back to this week's Bourbon of the Week. If you don't know what we do on this channel, we take the bourbons in my collection, we rank them on price, taste, drinkability. We throw them on a ranking sheet, we see who breaks down to the number one bourbon that I have. We're doing things a little bit different. I got a couple buddies with me, Jake, Jason. We call them the Jaybirds. We got a couple others in the groups, but for right now, we're just gonna go with these two. And this week, I made them go out to their local liquor store, and we're working with Redemption Bourbon. They both have a brand new bottle sitting there with them, so let's crack them open, boys.
Took me 3 stops to get this. It wasn't available at 2 of the liquor stores I stopped at, so it must be a hot item.
Hot item. Everybody wants one.
Hot ticket, baby. All right, no cubes, right? We're doing straight up.
Straight up, no cubes.
Fill to the brim, right?
As high as you want. I know it's a little Saturday afternoon here, so.
Go Flyers.
Go Flyers. Everybody knows. Time for the traditional sip.
Cheers,
Cheers.
y'all.
Cheers. Ooh. So this is an 84 proof, 42% alcohol by volume. I believe they do have the mash bill right on here. 75% corn, 21% rye. So 21% rye is a high rye mash. I know Redemption also has a rye, and then they also have a high rye bourbon. So it's interesting. They seem to love their rye mashes there. But first thoughts, what do you think, boys?
Decent. It's a little sweet for me, honestly. It's definitely smooth, though.
It's definitely sweet.
It's definitely sweeter than I would usually drink, but I do like the, it's smooth.
It is smooth. I agree.
Yeah,
it is only an 84 proof.
This first sip was pretty smooth. I liked it, actually.
I agree. So before we get into what you guys think about it directly, Jason, we'll start with you. When did you start drinking bourbon, and what's your favorite bourbon that you got?
So probably about 5 years ago, started ripping shots of it legally after the age of 21, of
Beautiful.
course. And then, probably started sipping on it about 3-4 years ago. And I honestly don't really have, I don't know if I have a favorite. I like the Wellers. I really like Russell's, Woodford.
Jason
I've only had
obviously
20 before.
recommended the Russells to me, which sat number one on the list for a little while. So we do have a
Yeah,
similar
buddy.
taste
Oh, yeah.
in flavors there. How about you, Jake? When did you start, and what's your favorite?
Again, I think I have to agree with Jason. Like, I started probably after 21. I started out with the cheap stuff, Bankers Club, Canadian Club. Kind of worked my way up, but I guess I started actually sipping probably a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and actually started to actually enjoy it rather than using it in mixed drinks and shots. So,
The way to do it. And what's your favorite? You have a favorite bourbon at least?
I would say my go-to is Bullet right now.
Bullet.
It's good for a little bit of everything, sipping, and as well as if you want to make a mixed drink and switch it up or something like that, throw a little lemon, water, make a old-fashioned. It's good for that. So
Bullet's a high rye mash too, so you might like this a little bit more. I'm not the biggest rye fan. I'm starting to come around on the rye a little bit more, but if you don't already know, the rye is what gives it that extra little spice at the end. So for an 84 proof, like I said last week, I like the lower proof with the higher rye content because you can actually taste the spices at the end rather than that ethanol kick, and we all agree that this is actually pretty smooth. So no ethanol with that high rye is pretty good actually. So if you guys, a couple sips in now, letting it air out, if you guys had to give this a quick score, 1 through 10, what do you think? What are you going to throw it at?
I like it. Definitely not my favorite, but I would give it probably a 7.6.
7.6. Jake?
yeah, I was actually going to shoot for a 7.4. But the more I'm drinking it, the more I'm like kind of liking it. It is a little sweet. Like now I'm tasting that. Now that you mention it,
It's definitely a lot sweeter than a lot of the ones that I
still
like.
easy to drink.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
smooth. I don't feel like there's a lot of flavor profile to it. It's just kind of that high rye. There's a little bit vanilla if I had to say anything, but definitely just that straight sweetness, which I'm guessing comes from whatever corn they use. But yeah, definitely sweet, and then that spice, and that's about it.
It feels like it might be watered down, honestly.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I feel like a lot of those lower proofs make it. That's not like a bold flavor. It's just like, yeah, it tastes like almost water with a little bit of spice in it and sweetness in it.
So the drinkability, I would say, is high, but like the flavor of it is, I don't know, it's maybe not there.
And Jake,
Tastes
you
like
just went out. Actually, you both just went out and bought it. I haven't bought it in a while, and I don't know off top hand. What did this run you? In Jason's in Texas and Jake being here in Pennsylvania.
It was like $26 in Texas.
Yeah, this was 30. It's $29.90.
The $30, not a bad price for a bourbon. 84 proof, so you shouldn't pay too much for it. But There you have it, price, taste, drinkability. But let's get to my score, which is the ones that matters. Thanks, fellas. Thanks for joining us today. And we'll catch you next time with a couple more Jaybirds.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers. So there we have it from Jason and Jake. They've been drinking bourbon a little bit longer than I have, so they might know what they like, what they don't like. But for all the new bourbon drinkers out there, we're going to give this the real review going on right now. I only have a little bit of this left because we were drinking it together, so let's see what we can do here. We should have enough. That spilled a little bit, but that's all right. So we do have enough here to finish off this review. Let's see what this comes out to for our bourbon review, and let's see where it falls on the list. We already did it, but everybody knows, time for the traditional sip. Now, as we already talked about, we did say drinkability on this is pretty good. It is a smooth bourbon. Like I said before, it's only 84 proof, so we shouldn't expect a lot of bite with it. That high rye content does give it a little spice at the end there, but for an 84 proof, not too bad of a bite, not too much of an ethanol kick. It could be a little bit better, but as for an 84 proof, we're not going to throw it up that high. We're going to give this like an 8.3 on the drinkability scale. Getting you to taste on that then, I spoke about it before. Jason mentioned it himself. It does almost taste watered down. It's not that great of a flavor. There's the vanilla, there's the caramel, there's not much oak. We did mention this is only a 2.5 year aged, which means that the lowest aged bourbon in this is only 2.5 years old. They might have some older bourbons in it as well, but at the same time, doesn't really bring out any flavor from the barrel. It doesn't really bring out any oak flavor. It doesn't really bring out anything like that. It's very sweet, which I'm assuming is what the corn that they use makes it very sweet. And then they have that spice at the end, which is that rye kick. But other than that, a little bit of caramel, a little bit of vanilla, your typical bourbon flavors, but nothing overwhelming, nothing great, nothing that stands out to me at least. So I think this is going to struggle a little bit on the taste scale. I'm going to drop this in at like a 4.9 on the flavor scale. Again, there's nothing abstract about it. It doesn't last very long, the flavor, so you're going to need to drink it over and over again to even keep the flavors that it does have in your mouth and on the palate. So 4.9 on the taste scale, which isn't the greatest spot, but again, I do like that lower proof bourbon with that higher rye content. I will admit that we found that out with the one last week. But as for everything else, it doesn't really have too much to offer as far as taste. But then again, price, which we'll get into next, it does bump it up a little bit. As for price on this is only a $29.99 bottle, so you don't really have to pay too much for it. I think it's priced correctly. It doesn't really value anything more than that. I'm actually almost surprised it's that high. We have Old Granddad and a couple of others that are only sitting at $18, $19. It's only aged 2.5 years. It's only proofed at 84 proof, so I don't really know what they're adding value-wise that's giving it a $30 bottle. I know rye costs more than corn, so I guess that's where the price difference comes in. But I don't really think it deserves to be a $30 bottle. If you put this at like 25, even 20, I think that's a fair spot for it. So at $30, we're going to drop this in at like a 7.5 on the price scale. It's a little high for what you're getting out of this, being an 84 proof, being not that great with taste. Again, the ethanol kick's not that bad, but again, the $30 bottle seems a bit excessive if you ask me. So a 7.5 on the price scale is going to break our average down to 6.90 is going to give us our average right there, which is actually going to put this, actually I got to look. That's going to put us at 11th, right below Old Granddad from last week. So again, Redemption Bourbon, not a terrible bourbon. If you like the rye content, you're going to like this a lot more than I did. But again, it's not the greatest bourbon, and especially for $30, I wouldn't recommend it. You can put it on the shelf. You're always going to find it, at least where I'm at. Jake had a couple tries to get it. Jason doesn't mind it too much, but at the same time, not the greatest bourbon that I've ever had. Put it on the shelf, let your friends try it. Again, it is a high rye content. I think there's a lot of other better high rye contents out there, Bullet Bourbon being one of them that we've reviewed already on this channel. So I would recommend that much more over this one. It is what it is. Throw it in a mixed drink if you already have it. Don't hate yourself for buying it, but that's where it's going to fall, 6.9. That's going to be it for this week, though. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jake, for being a part of it. Hope to get a couple more Jaybirds on it in the future. But as always, hit that like, hit that subscribe. Make sure you let me know what your favorite bourbon is so I can see where it ranks on the list. Don't drink and drive. Drink responsibly. And as always, please wash your hands. Pandemic isn't over. Cheers, guys.